Call this meeting to order. Start with the Pledge of Allegiance.
I pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all.
Roll call.
Sabers.
Here.
Goldammer.
Here.
Dosher.
Here.
McCardle.
Here.
Barrington.
Here.
Bathke.
Here.
Charts. Smith.
Here.
And hear her. Okay. Okay, we'll start with the first one. Reconsider action to award bid for tornado shelter rebid project 2023-33. I think we got some more information. You want to start with Terry or Mark?
Here.
Mr. Mayor, Council, Mark Jennings. We've been talking with some contractors about possibly rebidding for a third time to try and get this down a couple $100,000. We're told that if we go maybe with a CMU block filled with rebar in it instead of poured concrete walls, it could come down a couple $100,000 again. So I guess we're asking if you want us to proceed with a third rebid, which there could be some cost associated with it for a redesign and a peer review and structural review that we'd have to do, whether or not you guys would still accept a third bid if it is a couple $100,000 low.
If we do the rebidding, will that affect the grant at all? We got timelines, we still okay?
We could still get that with the grant. Going this route, we could do that, yes. Timeline, I don't think it would change for when construction could start or stop with that, or would start or stop with that.
With being the park liaison and did some research, I was kind of either I didn't do my homework or I wasn't informed my homework. Either way, I wasn't prepared for what was brought to me on Monday. But after I did a lot of checking out on this, I am going to back this project. And but if we could save 100,000, is that going to hamper the project at all? Make it better, worse?
It would still stay within the standards for FEMA.
I understand that.
Same layout as what we were planning before. It's just the construction of the walls. I can let Terry speak to it a little bit better than I can.
Okay.
So when we bid the project, we bid it as precast concrete walls. We talked to some contractors about what are some things we could change to make it a little cheaper, but still make it the FEMA, standard that we would need to follow. We talked about concrete block filled with concrete on the inside and then put rebar inside of that, which would be acceptable as part of FEMA. That would lower us. Just with that, we figured we can lower it a couple $100,000. Then we also talked last night about poured concrete walls. And I think we get even cheaper than that. So I would like to have the opportunity to rebid this thing, talk to some contractors about what are things we could save. Before we were going to do all the piping inside the walls, so it would make it a little bit more expensive, but it would be easier to clean, things like that. But if we mounted those conduits and things like that to the inside of the wall, which is still safe, we could save some more money. So I think there are things we could do to get closer to our original budget.
And to be clear, the grant will not be hampered if we do another rebid.
Correct, because we extended it for another year. So.
Oh, I thought that we were down to the wire with this.
We can.
Oh, we can't extend it for another year. Yeah.
Okay.
So the timelines that we were dealing with is the previous bid had to be awarded within a certain time frame, and we're at the end of that time frame. And the option that they're talking about, starting with another rebid, would make sense to bring the cost down, but only makes sense if the council wants to proceed with the project if we can bring the cost down. We don't want to keep asking for extension and forgiveness from the grant and burn bridges in the future. So really, we only want to go through that rebid process if council's intention is to move forward with the project if we can get it within closer to budget, if that makes sense, because we don't want to burn those bridges with the grant as well. Does that sound accurate, Mark? Okay.
Yeah, so I'll give a little context. So after the last meeting, I think it was the next day, we were talking about, well, we should probably at least remodel the bathrooms because there's not a lot of comfort in those comfort stations. So we did a rough bid, and I think it was between 150 and 200,000 just to remodel the bathroom. So we wouldn't get an additional storm shelter or anything else. So if you're going to sink that cost, it'd be about the same cost as building a new one. So that was one of the options. And then we also went and tried to see if we can save some money. So now we have three options: do nothing, just do the remodel, or do something new. And Terry and the crew saved a little money. So.
Well, I know it doesn't come as a surprise to anybody, but I am in favor of this project. So I'm going to move approval of the action to award the bid for the tornado shelter and rebid the project.
So then those are different things.
Yep.
So that's
I'm
different.
just reading it
Yep.
off number 4.
So the item number 4 would be reconsider awarding the bid as was discussed on Monday. So that's the larger project, the higher cost. If council wants to reject that and direct staff to go forward with another bid, we can do that. But like the mayor said, those are two different considerations.
What's the timeline, Terry?
Yeah.
To rebid?
A
30?
month?
30 days.
It'd be roughly a month and a half.
So I guess before we do all that, we decide if we want to do. This is for precast, right?
Yeah, even or we would just do it probably poured concrete wall or concrete block.
I think concrete block is probably not.
I
Not
think
great-
what
not
we
great.
probably end up doing, from what I'm hearing from last night, was poured concrete. Actually, out in the field, poured concrete walls.
And you think you could save how much with that?
I think I could get within budget
Wow.
or close to budget.
So caveat always with that. Our architect originally told us that they thought CMU walls or precast would be CMU or poured in place would be more expensive than precast. We're hearing from the bidders that it's a potential that CMU or precast or pre-poured, poured in place walls would be cheaper. We would still need those designed to make sure that they're at the rated storm shelter rate. And recommend if we did that to rebid it to see where those costs actually fall in with being designed to the storm shelter design.
Justin, what would you like the motion to be?
I guess it depends on which way council wants to go on this. If they want to do the rebid, then they would not need to take any action here today other than to direct staff to go through the rebid process.
So you don't need a motion.
Because at the last meeting, you guys already rejected the
Mhm.
bid. So there's no further action necessary there. If you want staff to go through the rebid and redesign process, we would just get that direction and start going through that process.
Mike, I think you brought this up. You agree with all that?
Yes, I've actually done one of these out of poured walls for Corsica Lake. Very small compared to this, but I do think it's I came here prepared to say, do the precast walls and get this done. But if we can get it back in a month and a half and still get it done this fall, I do think it's the best way to go. And I do think you'll shave a couple $100,000 off of it. And I don't want people to think like this. You want it looking nice, and with the precast walls, it was going to look beautiful. I actually asked if there's a drawing. There wasn't, but I just seen enough of it to know it would look nice. With the poured walls, you can do a lot of the same things. There can be some decorative concrete on it that makes it look aesthetically pleasing, I guess you could say, at the campground. I do think it's the right thing to do to rebid it. I don't know. Is Larry Jersey?
Yeah.
Okay.
Yeah.
I mean, he should be very familiar with this. I think he was the one that did the one at Corsica Lake.
Am I allowed to ask? Would everyone be in favor of if we did but poured on
wall.
site? Yeah. Would everyone be on? I mean, then we'd be within budget.
Maybe be
Closer
Maybe-
to budget.
Closer.
Thank you for correcting me.
I was one of the no's. If you can get closer to budget, I'm all in.
I was a no also, and I'd do the same.
Okay, so it sounds like we
We
have.
don't affect the grant at all.
No, I think we're in the same boat. Whereas if the bid is awarded in the next 2 months, we'd ask for an extension right away. The project probably won't be completed until sometime in 27. But no, if the project gets completed and all those fall in line, I think that's a good thing.
So
Hopefully they'll understand that we're all acting in good faith. We just want to make sure that we're doing doing what's best to be fiscally responsible.
Just so we're clear, I assume, and I see Mr. Schmidt's back there, that this still would be partially precast because the roof would be precast.
Right.
Correct.
Yep. So we have general consensus to go out for rebid with poured concrete walls. Okay, that's what we'll do then. Thanks to the staff for working on that. Everyone's working like busy bees trying to make it.
I just want to say, I think we still should allow them to, they said they were adjusting their numbers for the precast, so we have something to compare it to. Because if it's only $100,000 difference, we need to decide if we want to do the precast or the poured.
So bring them both if you
They're
can.
different.
Yeah, that design's already done, so we'll just add the two and we'll end up with 3 alternates.
Can we agree that the cinder blocks is probably not the way to go? Okay.
I think you need to bid them all in line, whether it's
Okay. Get all the
CMU,
information then.
and then council can decide. So you're right, there will be a look change with the CMU walls.
Okay. Any other questions before we move on? Does anyone in the audience want to talk about the tornado shelter? Is that why y'all are here? Okay. Action on referral petition for agreement A 2026-18, transfer of redevelopment agreement for East First Avenue project. Mr. Johnson, why don't we start with you?
All right. So, as indicated in the staff report, the council did pass the agreement A 2026-18 at the first February meeting. We did receive a referral petition on that on, I think it was the 27th of February, just inside the deadline to file that petition. Also indicated in the staff report, it does appear that an older version of the form was used. So it's going to be up to council here today to decide whether they want to consider this a valid petition, and if so, what election we want that placed on. And with that, we can open it up to questions, comments.
Who wants to go first?
I can start out. I talked to the Secretary of State yesterday. I called him yesterday morning, and I asked him the process of the petition. I got a bunch of stuff written down here, so I'll be reading some. And they said, I'm not a computer guru, so they said, are you on the computer? I said, yep. And they said, go to the Secretary of State webpage. So I went to the Secretary of State webpage. They said, click here. I clicked here. They said, click there, click there. They said, go down 4 spots. It says municipality ballot petition. I clicked on that, and within 3 minutes, I had the right petition printed off on a computer, and it took me 3 minutes to get the right one, which is, for me, not knowing what I'm doing, I don't understand where they got the wrong petition at. And then I talked to a couple lawyers on it because I said, where would the city stand if, legally? And they sent me some codified laws. The first one says requires that I'll read these slow so you can hear it. The referendum petition to be filed on an official prescribed by the State Board of Election under South Dakota Codified Law 2-1-3, and the second one is Codified Law 920-2. Municipal petition must contain an ordinance or resolution in a proper form for properly signed. And it wasn't a proper form. And third, there is a Pacific Administration Rule 5020816 that lays out the exact amount of language that must be used for a municipal referendum petition. And these guidelines weren't used, and the people I talked to said, I don't want to be in a lawsuit by passing something that's illegal. So I'm going to be against these petitions because I got to look out for the city and myself on this, because it was an illegal petition by 3 different codified laws by the state of South Dakota. So I'll just shout and I'll make a motion to deny the petitions because they're illegal by South Dakota law.
Okay, we have a motion to deny. Does anyone want to follow up?
I'll second.
Okay, we have a first and a second to deny. Does anyone else on the council want to say anything before we open it up?
I don't know how they, it was very easy to get the proper petition on the webpage, on the South Dakota Security or webpage that, I mean, so I don't know how they, where they found theirs at, but it wasn't with the Secretary of State, that's for sure.
Well, while I appreciate the intention that the people that circulated the petition and those who signed it, I appreciate their intention, but if it's an invalid petition, it's invalid. I mean, it's kind of our hands are tied. We accept something that's not proper. You know.
Not many probably remember this, but maybe Marty, maybe you do. And I don't know, Susan, if you were on the council at that point, but when Arnie's went from a gas station to a convenience store, there was a neighbor that passed a petition after we allowed either a variance or a change of I don't remember all the specifics, and there's probably not many in the room that do, but what I do remember is a neighbor did pass a petition around and presented them to the city to deny what our vote was, and it was on the wrong form. And at that point in time, we said, you know, nothing we can do. I'm sorry, it's the wrong form, and that council at that time did deny that as invalid. So there is some history with city council.
I just feel like this is really so unfortunate. And you know, in my perfect world, we would be able to just accept it on good faith that these petitions were valid. But the problem is that when you have an opinion by the Secretary of State, then we set the city up for a lawsuit. You know, if we accept these, then we're setting the city up to be sued by those people who want to see that development done. So either way, like, you know, whatever in this situation, which is so unfortunate because I'm a person who's like, you know what, you know, we had this conversation. It would be really nice if we could just say, you know what, no big deal. But unfortunately, it is a big deal. And we've been elected to protect the city and to do what's right and to uphold the law. And sadly, in this situation, the wrong petition was passed and it is not valid or binding. So I'm going to have to vote against the petitions as well. I'm so sorry.
Hey, Justin, I'm not going to ask you for your opinion, obviously, where you're sitting at, but is there any kind of a track record for what other levels? I know at the state level, it seems like there's always going back to the Attorney General to review the petition, all that kind of stuff. I mean, has it been pretty crucial, that verbiage? I mean, I don't know if I don't even know if there is. Maybe I should see ChatGPT or AI would have had some answers, but as Roger would say, but I just didn't know if there was any kind of things that we've heard in the past of.
I really don't have a precedent to point you towards. You know, I think that what Kevin has said about the state statutes is generally correct. One of the administrative rules that he mentioned does require specifically that the form, that the signatures be collected on the correct form. And if they're not, then those signatures are not to be counted. So that would be the basis for looking at it as invalid.
All right, thank you.
Anyone else before we open it up to the audience?
While I can agree that I do think we need to fact check what Councilman McCardle's saying. I do stand by what I said at previous meetings. We drastically changed the RFP. What we voted on June 2nd did not include that parking lot. I do think the right procedure here would be to start the whole process over. Let everybody have a fair shot at it, and it goes to rest. If we're going to vote, I'm getting a feeling where we're going to vote to deny the petition, and I just think that we need to start the process over and let the people speak. And we can say, well, we gave everybody a shot. There's people that have reached out to Mayor Hansen and to me, and probably you guys too, that said, I had no idea this was going on. So that's where I'm at with it. If you're going to deny it, I do think we need to start the process over.
I think I'll save my thoughts for later. So we'll open up to public comment, but I do want to say before we start, this is not about the plan itself. It's not about should we leave it a park, should we do whatever plan. It's only if shall we put this on the ballot or not. So just to be clear. So if anyone would like to come up to the podium, now's your time.
So just asking Mike, it was separating the two.
Yes.
Separating the two, why we're here today on the petitions. And
Yep.
obviously, if we decide to circle back around, is a whole different discussion.
Yes, that's correct. Yep.
Guess where I'm going to I've had people reach out to me and say, if you guys deny this, we're taking it to court. So I just think to avoid all that, just start over.
Would anyone like to come to the podium?
How much time do I have, Jordan?
I think
Mayor Hansen?
it's up to the council.
It's up to the council. Will
Yes.
you grant me a few minutes to? Tim's got to be to work.
Oh yeah, there's quite a few other
First
people.
class starts at 9, so
I would appreciate.
Keep it as brief as you can. If you
I'll
would,
keep
please.
as brief as I can. Let's just talk to that. I would like to speak, and I know it all globally comes back to housing in Mitchell. I do want to offer some points of consideration pertaining to the housing in Mitchell that I feel aren't just being discussed publicly. And I do want to be very clear. The points that I'm talking to are only directed at housing and policy and not necessarily land or this specific topic.
I hate to cut you off, but like I said, can you try to stick to should we keep this on the ballot or not with the legality of the petition?
Well, and I'm going to lay out some points that we should consider to leave the petition in place.
Just round it back to that. Thank you.
Okay, appreciate that. Just to set the stage a little bit, the world is a builder. We revolve around a strategy. We always say one, 2, 3 progression in housing. Step one is maybe that first house that you are going to buy. Maybe you are renting, you want to get into your first home. You are looking at those entry-level houses in Mitchell. Step two is probably a progression from there, where you've been in your existing home for a while. Maybe you're looking at building something new, upgrading, buying something that's 10 to 12 years old, whatever it may be. This is setting the stage for the progression of home ownership in any community. Step three would be that final home, where maybe you're retiring, you're looking at getting into something that's more accessible, whatever it is. So in my little bubble, there's 3 stages of housing. In order to move through those stages, you have to have a buyer. The guy in step one that wants to move into a different home, or maybe wants a company like mine or my peers to build them a home, they are going to have to sell their first home. Same thing for 2 to 3. But what if that buyer wasn't there for step one? What if you bought a house in Mitchell 3, 4, 5, 10 years ago, and you bought a house and you did some remodeling and you had all this work done? And when it comes time to sell your house and you're looking over all the receipts and you go over there and we've got to have $300,000 for our house. Now, what if you throw a fork in the road and there is options for brand new homes that are subsidized, whether it's financing specifics, land, whatever it may be, subsidized housing. What if you throw a fork in the road and now there are brand new homes on the market that were subsidized in that $250,000 to $280,000 range? You're a renter and say that you want to move up in the world and you want to buy that house. Are you going to look at that guy that's in step one with that 60-year-old house that's been remodeled and had all this work done, but yet it's still an old home? Or are you going to buy that new home? You're probably going to buy that brand new house.
Mr. Jensen, sorry to cut you off. Can you get back to the petition, just the validity of the petition?
And for the people online, I've had a couple texts. This is Jeremy Jensen. Make sure you
Oh, yeah.
state your name.
Sorry, I forgot about
Jeremy
that. Don't
Jensen.
forget that. Okay.
I'd
Yeah,
like to
2
do-
minutes so far, so if you could wrap it up to
Okay.
the petition. Not to try to cut you off, I'm just
No, I know everybody's busy, but these are things that need to be talked about. And this is the place to do it. So what happens is
Mr.
that
Mayor, just to be clear,
Yeah.
This has to be in reference to the actual overturning of the petition itself.
right.
I agree with you that these are things that should be talked about publicly, but this is specific to the action on the table, and that's what the comment
Sure.
has to stay to.
So we just need to hear.
And I will add, Mayor, let's put this on the agenda so we do have an opportunity to, regardless of what happens today.
That's a good idea.
Thank
Okay.
you. Thank you.
So we'll give you another opportunity. I know you're here to talk
Okay.
about housing, but again, not to.
I get it. I guess if I would make a recommendation, I would put it on the ballot. Whether that document was outdated or not, those people in the community still signed it. So I think the voice needs to be heard. And if we can get something on the agenda again, so my peers and I have a voice with policy decisions, I would appreciate that in the future.
So let's add that to the discussion of this for the next. Okay. Thank you.
Thank you.
Please announce your name.
Boyd Reimnitz. How we got to this particular situation. I entered Michelle's office a couple of weeks ago and started asking her questions. This is the first time I've ever taken out a petition from the city to this. And so I was asking her a bunch of questions. And during the course of those conversations, she gave me a number of different pieces of paper. One of those pieces of paper was a prior petition. And I was overwhelmed with what there was. Did not go to the state website like you did. And I went to a lawyer and I took this to an attorney, gave him those particular documents. And it was from the documents that I got from Michelle was what they drew up the petition on. And so that's how we got to this particular place. And here we are. Thank you.
Thank you.
Dwight Stadler, Ward 4. I do have a question. What materially changed when the format changed? A new form. Did any of the content or signature block information, did any of that change? Was there any content in any way? Because old form, new form becomes irrelevant if the content has not materially changed. So you can maybe rearrange where things are on the form, but that doesn't negate the content and all the data that's in that form. You've had over 600 citizens support this. By the way, if you haven't figured it out already, I'm in favor of it going on to the June 2nd ballot. I think you're ignoring the citizens of Mitchell if you decide not to put it on a ballot. I think it's critical for you to consider your constituency and not get locked down into the minute details. And I did hear you, and I understand what you're saying about the form and how the state recognizes, how you recognize what you think should be. But you also have to look at the content. You have to look at the global picture. You just can't throw it out because, oh, gee, well, we rearranged the data on the form, but it's still the same stuff. Nothing changed. Did it? Anybody know if any data changed on that form?
I think our attorney has the answer. I'm not sure if he's allowed to say it though. But
Yeah, I can speak to the change. It really was just a terminology change. There were several references in the prior version of the form that talked about residence address. Those got updated to say voter registration address, which, you know, Dwight can probably tell you that in a lot of cases that's going to be the same thing. The point is, there's a requirement under the law that it use the correct form, and it did not use the correct form.
So,
does that answer you?
So if you decide that it's not going to go on the June the 2nd ballot, I have an offer. Give me a second here.
He's pulling out
You're going to
cash.
think I'm insane. There's $1,001. I'll buy the property for $1,001 instead of you paying on only getting $1 for it. That's 1,000 more. Do the math. That's 1,000 more than that $1. That's my proposal if you decide it's not going to go on the ballot. But I encourage you to put it on the June the 2nd ballot. My key critical components of such an agreement are I get to do with the property what I want, and it'll be rezoned the way however I want it zoned. Those are two critical components in there. You can laugh me out of the room, but either way, I think that should go on the June 2nd ballot because I think nitpicking the form, and I hear you state law, but at some point in time, somebody's got to get some common sense. Thank you for listening.
Thank you. Would anyone else like to address the council?
Can I provide a clarification?
Yes, please.
So the document that the finance office provided was a copy of a sample ballot, not a petition. And staff's response always is that we cannot provide legal advice.
Thank you.
Steve Simpson. First, I'd like to point out that the United States Constitution gives us the right to petition our government. South Dakota Statute 9-20-10 states, liberal construction of referendum petition. Such petition may be made up and signed and shall be liberally construed as provided by the statute governing an initiated law. So my argument is this should be put on the ballot because we have a constitutional right to petition this body for decisions we disagree with as a citizen. Thank you.
Thank you. Would anyone else in the audience like to discuss this?
I'm kind of curious. Is the wrong form still online?
It's not on the Secretary of State's website.
Okay, anyone else in the audience before we close it and go back to council? Oh,
Dwight Stadler again. When was the form changed? What's the date of the change?
It was updated December of 2025 after
December of 2025.
Yep, a House bill last legislative session.
Okay. I mean, we're less than 3 months into that, so it makes sense that somebody could easily use the wrong form, wouldn't it?
Okay. Anyone else in the audience? Okay, so we have a motion to deny on the table, I think. Oh yeah, and a second. Let's do a roll call. Just to be clear, it is to not put the petition on the ballot. Is that correct?
Yep, that's my understanding of the motion.
Okay, just want to make sure everyone's clear before we vote.
Dosher.
So an I vote would be to declare the petition invalid and not place it on the ballot.
Okay. Nay.
So you do want to put it on the ballot?
Put it on the ballot.
Okay.
McCurdle.
Aye.
Barrington.
Aye.
Bathke.
Nay.
Charks. Aye. Smith.
Aye.
Sabers.
Aye.
Goldammer.
Nay.
I got 5-3.
Yep, 5-3.
So it will not go on the ballot. Is that correct?
That's correct.
Okay.
With apologies. I mean, I think it's really unfortunate that the wrong form was used. I just feel like I'm so sorry that happened. So.
Well, and everybody keep in mind, we're putting this on, is the next meeting, Mayor?
We will put it on the next meeting and rediscuss.
And we can make some more decisions at that point, or discussion and maybe some more direction going forward. But I commend the mayor for helping us get to this point of taking care of an absolute eyesore, probably the biggest eyesore we have in Mitchell. Let's turn this into a positive to a bigger positive. That's what we need to get done.
Okay, thank you. All right, last thing, public comment. If you need to address the mayor and city councils on an item that was not on the agenda, excluding personal items, please come forward to the podium and state your name and your concern. Presentations are limited to 3 minutes. Items will be considered, but no action will be taken at this time. Would anyone like to address the council? I can't tell if anyone's coming this direction. Okay, sounds good. We will adjourn. Thank you.